How you doing, folks? My name's Jesse. Vlog entry number 40. What have I been working on? Well, I've been working with like three different bands. My blues band is gonna be playing a VFW gig on the first Saturday of September. Playing with my buddy Rob in his band, and then I'm practicing to be a pirate. More on that later. Um, and so this week I wanted to do another stupid shootout. And this one's near and dear to my heart because it involves the sound of my favorite band, one of my favorite rock bands, Boston. Now, to kind of set the stage for you, the year is 1981, and I'm hanging out at my cousin's house, and I've got my little tape recorder, and we're taping songs off the radio, including Donnie Iris's Aaliyah, which still, and the police's Don't Stand So Close to Me. Um, Breakfast in America. Who did that? Who did that album? Um, but it was a cut off of there. And Van Halen's "And the Cradle Will Rock," which I always thought when David Lee Roth goes, "Have you seen Junior's grades?" I thought he said, "Have you seen Junior's graves?" In other words, you had a demon kid that was murdering people and burying them out in the backyard. I firmly believe that was the case, and so Van Halen scared the crap out of me for years. But I recorded the first side of 1979's Don't Look Back, Boston's second album, with Feeling Satisfied, Don't Look Back, I think A Man I'll Never Be is on there or something like that. And growing up in a family that listened to both kinds of music, country and western, I was floored. I'd never heard guitar like that before. I'd never heard music like that before. I'd never heard orchestration like that, harmonizing guitars. It was like what music class in high school should have been. Cool. In middle school, sorry. Music class in middle school should have been. I'm old, but I'm not quite that old. Anyway, and unfortunately, it was 1981, and so I was a man without a country because Boston was my favorite band. Punk rock had destroyed album-oriented rock and prog rock, and new wave had come in, and everything was synthesizers and weird haircuts and English-sounding singers, and the music that I just discovered wasn't cool anymore, at least in the little corner of the world I was living in. But I always stuck with it, right? I kept those albums for years. I bought Third Stage when it came out in 86. And the thing is, when I started playing guitar, I think in 82. I discovered that between the years of like 1994 and 2008 or 2010 even, that was the best time to buy Rockman gear. Rockman, the company that Tom Scholz created to produce the guitar sound that was on his albums. And because Boston's music had kind of fallen out of favor and that kind of rock had fallen out of favor, those effects were cheap. And so I bought a ton of them over the years. I've had two X100s. I've had two soloists. I had one ultralight as far as like the little amps. I had one rack mounted sustainer, one rack mounted chorus, and I even had two of the Rockman wah pedals that they made in Czechoslovakia. And I discovered some things. Number one, that was the sound, right? And it kind of didn't matter what guitar you plugged into, you were going to get that sound, for good or for bad. I discovered that sound wasn't very, like, it was it. Like, you weren't going to radically change it. You were going to get a clean version of it, or you were going to get a distorted version of it, or you were going to get a slightly less distorted version that sounded just like the distorted version. And the other thing I discovered was that Rockman gear was finicky. It was prone to breaking. It was prone to failure, which is why I own so many pieces of it over time. And so last year, when MXR came out with the Rockman X100, I was like, do I get it? Do I not get it? And finally I just said, you know what? It's a cool tool to have. And so I picked one up. And when I say I picked one up, I mean I bought it in December and it finally shipped in April. And during that time period, I did what I normally do, which is go down every internet rabbit hole I can find. And on one of them, I saw a post that said, isn't the Rockman sound just the Behringer Ultra Metal? And I went, could it be? That's awfully specific to be. And I said, you know what? Let's find out, because Behringer pedals on the used market are really cheap. And so I picked one up. And I made a little Boston-esque backing track. And I'm going to show you what they sound like compared to each other. Take a listen, put it in your mind's ear, and I'm going to talk to you on the other side. I'll see you. We're back. Now let me say a couple things. Number one, this is the third time I've recorded this video, and this is the second time I recorded the backing track with the Rockman and the Behringer. And let me explain why. The first time I did it, I listened to it and I said, wow, the Rockman really kind of has it over the Behringer, which was weird because when I was playing it live in my monitors, the Behringer seemed like it was kicking the Rockman's butt, but in the mix, the Rockman was better. And I think because it's very mid-heavy and it just shoehorns perfectly in those frequencies. And then the more I thought about it, the video has been sitting on YouTube for a while waiting for this time period, but the more I thought about it, the more I said, this Behringer pedal has got something that a lot of distortion pedals don't have. It's got a 3-band EQ, and it's got what's basically a Q control that controls the amount of mid frequency, right? So the American Metal pedal sort of had that too. And I said, I should probably tweak it some more. So I did. I lowered the high end and the low end in the Behringer. I boosted the mids, and I've got the Q control at about 2 o'clock. Now I haven't had a chance to edit this yet because I need to do that. I'm going to edit it the way I edited the other one, but I'm really curious to see how they compare. I'm guessing they're going to be very similar. Let me know what you think. My name's Jesse. I'll talk to you later.